Okay, shall we get going on human potential? Welcome everyone. My name's Victoria Woodhall and I'm moderating your longevity panel today. And on the panel we have Dr. Yannis ALEXANDRIDES. So Dr. Yannis, I'm sure you know, triple board certified plastic surgeon. Your specialism is facelift and rhinoplasty, and you'll know him from 111 Harley Street and 111 Skin. Dr. Ben Caraway. Dr. Ben, at the end, you've swapped seats. Dr. Ben Caraway, neuromusculoskeletal performance expert and director of the Posture and Performance Clinics. I'm really excited that we're having a movement discussion in longevity today. And in the middle, Dr. MIKHAIL. So Mark also has a background in plastic surgery, and he's a longevity specialist, and you'll find him at Surrenne and Three Peaks Health. So welcome, everybody. And I'm just going to hand over to each of our panelists individually to introduce themselves personally. Dr. Yannis, welcome. Tell us a bit about you.
Very excited.
So tell us a bit about you and what you do, and then we'll come to you in a little bit more depth after everyone's introduced themselves.
So I'm a plastic surgeon. I have a special interest in facial aesthetics. I have created my clinic in 111 Harley Street in 2001.
Yeah.
And for 25 years, we are striving to provide a 360 approach to beauty, aesthetics, but also longevity.
Yes, exactly. And I remember you were one of the first people to bring cryotherapy to the UK. I remember that because it was very, very new in, what was it, 2016, 2017?
That was 2016. Indeed, I was impressed with some of the results I saw about full body cryotherapy.
Yeah.
And I tried the treatment myself. I did the research about what could be the benefits. And indeed, it was something that was not present in the UK.
Yeah, can you believe that? Now it's on every high street. I just want to check, can everybody hear us okay? Yeah, our microphones are fine. Yeah, lovely, thank you. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I'm really fascinated by Mark's dissertation in immortality, among many other things.
I have been interested in the space for a long time, since university, where I did do a dissertation on, dissertation was on immortality, but it was more from a dystopian point of view as to why are we trying to live forever. This all feels a bit weird. And that sort of has impacted my approach to longevity, which is very much less disciplined to what you'll see on social media, and is more about trying to ameliorate risk where you can, but not to eliminate all of the important things like social interaction and everything like community, etc. So I run a healthcare company that does a little bit of everything, but we do a lot of health and lifespan maximization, and we advise and operate for hospitality, spa, members clubs and hotels that are looking to be in this space.
Yeah, thank you. Ben, please introduce yourself. Dr.
Hi.
Ben Caraway.
Hello, everybody. So I'm here really because Francesca invited me. We've known one another for nearly a decade now. She initially wrote an article on me with the Harrods Wellness Clinic, and then as a follow-up, we did an article about 2 years ago, just after she'd given birth to Felix, her first child, and it was the first interview or article I'd agreed to do for a very long time. I turned them down often, just to be awkward and difficult. But she's so lovely, and I had to correct something that she'd made an incorrect assessment of me back in 2017. I think she described me as a disheveled Don Draper.
Oh yes, yes, and you crossed it out and wrote.
That's correct. yeah. So no, I had to correct her.
Or something. No, Buddhist Don Draper. That's right.
I thought it was more appropriate.
Yeah.
But as I was opening my space and I wanted her to come in and see what I did, she came in as a client, and I got to correct that. And she did such a lovely piece that she then said she was organizing this festival and would I speak about what I do. Yeah. And I thought, why not? So here I am today, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome to all our panelists. We're going to talk to each of them in a bit more depth, and there should be time for some questions right at the end. So when we're talking about longevity, we're talking about, are we actually talking about living longer, or are we talking about living longer in better health. So we have our lifespan, which I think is about mid-80s in the UK, but we also have our health span, and I think that sits at about mid-60s. So it means that we have this gap of about 20 years where our health starts to we're not living in optimum health, diseases start to creep in. And when we talk about longevity, we're talking about closing the gap between health span and lifespan, but we are also talking about potentially living longer. And all three panelists, when I talked to them before this session, they're really asking why. Why do we want to live longer? What's the purpose? And that is, I think, is the debate that's coming into the longevity space. You know, why do you want to live longer? And I think we really have to look at that as well. And we will be doing that today. So we're going to start with Dr. Yannis talking about skin longevity. So Yannis, is skin longevity just a fancy word for anti-aging that we're not really allowed to say anymore?
Well, I would say that when we talk about anti-aging, most people think about the aesthetic aspect and how they can maintain a youthful appearance. Whereas longevity is a more organic term in my book, where we look about how do we keep the health of the skin for longer, which actually keeps us looking better as well.
Yeah.
So for me, longevity is more like a pyramid. It starts on the lower level, on lifestyle choices. How do we train every day? What do we eat? The supplements we take. On a second level, which is smaller, is about the skincare we use.
Yeah.
And then as we go higher and higher, we get less and less of a percentage of the population that would need it for, and then we get to non-surgical treatments. And at the end of the pyramid, on the very top, would be plastic surgery.
Yeah.
So I think that's my way of describing that.
Yeah, so certainly, I don't know if you guys are seeing more talk about skin longevity. There are certain creams that are coming out called longevity creams. And I think from what you're describing, skin longevity is more about skin health. So skin being an organ like any other organ that you want to maintain into later life. But anti-aging being, do I look younger? Do I have fewer wrinkles? So the conversation's now gone more to skin health, do you think?
Absolutely. And I think one of the ways to see that is that we live longer lives. We want to live healthier lives. Yeah. And skin is our biggest organ, is the organ that protects us. And it has so much contribution to our daily quality of life. So it's about protecting it. It's about maintaining it from a young age in order to have it healthy until our late years.
Yeah. And when we're talking about like inflammation on the skin, I know there's it's now known to be bidirectional, so looking after your skin has a systemic effect on the inside. It's not just inside out, it's outside in, so it does have all over health benefits, I believe.
Absolutely. It's interconnected with our microbiome. It has its own microbiome. It connects with the inside microbiome, and these are now discoveries that we are coming across. And we start seeing these applications in the daily life. Yeah.
So what are the protocols that are really working and that we can adopt for skin longevity that you subscribe to? What can we all do? We know the basics of looking after our skin with vitamin C, SPF, retinoids. Yeah. What's the next level of skin longevity?
The next level will be, of course, prevention is number one. It's boring talking about SPF, but it's so important. It's probably the most important step that one can take from an early age to protect the skin from aging, from potentially getting into skin cancer and so on. So I cannot overemphasize the importance of that. Then it comes to the daily routine of a good skincare, which would include, we heard from the previous panel some very good pearls about how to take care of your skin, dry brushing, cleansing, applying the right skincare with the ingredients that you need, which should be ingredients of moisturizing, peptides, retin A and vitamin A, very important, vitamin C and so on. And it's a huge subject, right? So we hear so many new products and ingredients coming every day. But the important thing is understanding skincare and having a consistent regimen that applies to you and your specific needs. And potentially, if people need more guidance on that, it's good to talk to a specialist and get a lifetime advice on how to do that.
Yeah, so the fundamentals don't change, but we're seeing some trendy ingredients coming through now, and microspicules. Has anyone heard of microspicules? Well, if you go to 111 Skin, definitely, I've heard of them through you. It's a trending, newish ingredient, obviously from Korea, where everything comes from. And we're seeing those coming into skincare as a kind of non-invasive. It's also called liquid microneedling. You can have it as a clinic procedure. Fad or something?
It's a fact. I mean, scientific skincare is not just a fashion. It's something that, in my opinion, as a doctor, is a great thing that now we realize that skincare has an impact on our skin, but it needs to be scientifically based, and it has to have clinical studies to support the results. People invest a lot of money in skincare, so they should be getting the results they're looking for. So you mentioned new trends. One of the first things that I saw in my clinic with the non-surgical treatments we perform is how much impact exosomes have on the skin. We have used exosomes in our clinic for 3.5 years, and we have combined this with non-surgical treatments or standalone exosomes. And as I was trying to find a way to incorporate treatments that we do in the clinic into a skincare regimen that people can use it at home. And the exosome duo that you're mentioning is a product that is a 30-day product that you need to use at night. So how do we get the exosomes, though, to work when we apply in skincare? It's very difficult because, as we know, our skin is a barrier and exosomes are large in size. They won't go deeper in order to work. So we came over this problem by finding microspicules, which are small needle-like structures that you apply to the skin in order to create micro-injury into the superficial dermis, and then apply the second product, the mask, which has the exosomes in order for them to work deeper in the skin. And we've done the clinical studies. We've seen 350% increase in penetration of exosomes when you use microspicules.
Yeah. Wow, so microspicules made from sea sponge, tiny little spikes. When you put them on, you can feel a little prickling in your skin. And it's also called liquid microneedling when you have it done in a clinical setting. But is this a move away from treatments that damage the skin to more kind of working with the skin to regenerate? Are you seeing more of that?
Yeah, it's actually both together. It's kind of important to understand that micro-injury, small, tiny little injury to the skin actually can be beneficial because the skin responds by creating more collagen. It regenerates, as we say. So it's good for anti-aging or longevity of the skin. However, there is a fine balance, right? So when you overdo continuous damage to the skin, it could become permanent. Yeah. So that's why medical supervision and expertise on this field is very important. And I know that people are bombarded with messages every day about new skincare, about new anti-aging treatments. So it's important to really get the education or from a specialist before using these new methodologies.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So are we saying, is the facelift a thing of the past now? I know you do facelift.
Well, I hope not, because that's what I predominantly do every day. But I think we've all seen people who come out and have accepted they had facelifts, they had shown the result. And I think facelifts are having a second wave, which is really a very positive one, because the techniques have changed, and where people were afraid before, the number one fear of patients who come to see me about a facelift is, would it look strange? Would I look natural or not? And actually the new technology, the new deep plane techniques provide exactly that, provide natural results that sometimes are very, very difficult to tell that someone had a facelift.
Yeah, I think the deep plane is the sort of Kris Jenner style facelift, is that right? Not the...
It is, and there are, variations of the deep plane techniques of plastics. If you have 10 plastic surgeons here, we have 10 different opinions on that. But the bottom line on the deep plane is that we don't work on the surface of the skin, we don't pull the skin, we pull the deeper structures in order to restore a youthful face and a neck, according to what is necessary, without putting tension on the skin. So we're now getting this tight look.
Yeah, yeah. And if you think nobody's having facelifts anymore, Dr. Yannis told me that he'd done 200 deep plane facelifts in the last 5 or so years. It's just that you can't tell, I guess. The results are very natural looking.
I mean, there is a little bit of what we need to be careful, because now it's a catchy word, the deep plane facelift. It's not for everybody, obviously. It's something that started during COVID, and it was really something that got this popularity due to social media. But there is something here that we need to take. And the positive thing is that people can really get to the information they need. They need to be careful to distinguish between false information, like anything else, and real information. But now, these days, I find that the patients I see are much more educated about what they want. And when they come to see me, they already 70, 80% of the times know exactly what's really good for them. Yeah. So that's the positive thing. The negative thing is that sometimes we think that, because Kris Jenner did it and looks good on her, it will look good on anybody, but it doesn't apply like that.
Yeah. The bespoke approach is absolutely key. Oh, thank you, Dr. Yannis, as ever. Let's moving on to Dr. Mark MIKHAIL. So longevity is your passion. You've got a background in surgery, but longevity is where you're at now. What is the conversation looking like as far as you're concerned, as somebody who runs a longevity practice and clinic with multidisciplinary practitioners?
Well, from my side, we see a big spectrum of people, to be honest. So we do see the sort of the 1%, and I'm sure a lot of them are here, that want very advanced regenerative therapies, want to be at the cutting edge, they want advanced diagnostics, they want to be tracking their biological age through epigenetics or glycans or proteomics, etc. But then we've got the other side of the spectrum as well, who just want to understand what they can do on a day-to-day basis in a consistent way to, improve their health and their ability to experience life, but still do also want to experience life. And where I sit, as I sort of alluded to, is I do see a lot of people kind of fed up with the narrative out there that is, unless you're waking up at 4:30 a.m. and going for an immediate run and then doing this and doing that and doing that.
Getting your morning light on your retina.
Yeah,
that is a good idea, and it's free.
That one's a decent idea. And I'm not saying any of the others are bad ideas, but I just think the narrative has got quite aggressive, and so I try to come at it from a bit more of an accepting way. We've all got lives, and yes, we can do that for a bit, but it's not always going to work perfectly. And to understand what those different pathways are that you're trying to trigger, you might not trigger it in one way, but you might be able to find another way to ameliorate that pathway. And ultimately, all of what the opportunity that we have here is, we don't need to be looking at diseases as lots of different things. They're actually a lot of the time as similar pathways. And if we can trigger those pathways in a way, then we can affect change.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of biological age testing, aren't we? There's all sorts of different ways you can measure your biological age and then feel kind of really sort of propelled to need to reduce it. What do you think about biological age testing? Is it any good? Is it worth us doing? Or does it just create worry?
It's not there yet. What I wouldn't do is focus on the number. What I would do is have someone who understands how to interpret it. And if you can take an array of different tests, then, cost prohibitively, I would. If we dip into a couple of them, there are some that are much more focused, and say glycans, for example, is an immunological biological test. For women in perimenopause, it's excellent for giving an idea of hormonal change during that phase, but outside of it, you may find a guy who's carrying a bit more weight, who's aromatizing testosterone peripherally, may have a very young age. It's not necessarily that they're a young biologically. So we're getting to a point where looking at, rather than epigenetics and CPG sites, something called proteomics, which is essentially each organ's different display of what proteins they either secrete or produce in healthy or diseased states, proteomics will hopefully be the future of how we look at organ-specific aging. So the system as a whole doesn't necessarily give you the picture. We need to be able to understand that actually your immune system's aging at this rate, your liver's aging at this rate, your metabolic system's aging at this rate, and try to then support where suitable.
Yeah. So if somebody comes to your practice and says, I just want to live longer to see my grandchildren, or I want to have a more active life, I've got something to contribute to, my business, my society, my friends. What is the starting point, and then how do you develop a protocol for them to improve their longevity, health span?
I think the starting point's a pretty long conversation, to be honest. So finding out really in depth where there is that bit of risk, which would be useful to ameliorate within their lives. And I saw a couple together, which I don't normally do, but they're parents of a friend. And as I was going through the husband's bloods, the wife said, Mark, can you tell him every day for the last 25 years he goes to the pub and has a couple of pints with his friends? Can you tell him that's bad for his health? And I was like, fuck, I'm quite jealous. That's probably quite
keep up the pub visits, because actually
keep that bit going.
Because if you look at a lot of the hallmarks of aging, one of the things that comes up time and again is social connections, isn't it? Really boosting those, not just doing this practice or that practice. Because ultimately, what are we living longer for? It's basically living longer to enjoy our social connections, most of us, or contribute meaning.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you're not doing those basics right, one of them, and with movement, with sleep and with diet, then all of the rest is just a really uphill battle, and no amount of peptides or supplements or anything can bridge that gap.
Yeah. Peptides, you just mentioned, they are quite a buzzword, injectable peptides. Yep. Tell us about those. I'm hearing a lot about them.
Well, they sit in a bit of a grey area, and if you're looking for a big double-blinded randomized controlled trial for the majority of them, you're not going to find them. They are essentially, it's an umbrella term for chains of amino acids, for which there's like 7,000 of them that have been discovered in our bodies somewhere. And they tell our bodies to do certain things. And so there is a peptide for everything. I mean like literally everything. And some of them have been utilized very effectively for people to try to trigger some of these certain pathways. And full disclosure, I do use them in my practice subcutaneously, often for inflammation, soft tissue recovery, skin health with copper peptides and anti-inflammatories, and libido quite a lot.
Wow, yeah. So peptides is a yes in the right hands?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misinformation about them. Not many people know how to use them effectively. Not many people know that the bonds between them denature as soon as you reconstitute them, so they lose potency and they have to be handled with care. They shouldn't be mixed together in the same syringe, a lot of them, because they've got charges on them and they can attract and precipitate, and all of these kind of things can go wrong. But they're very, very safe. With these tiny little molecules, some of them are 3 amino acids long. With something that small, you can be quite precise and only hit the receptors that you'd like to hit, rather than some large, everything that we take as a 3D structure, cannoning around, hitting multiple receptors. So there is a level of precision that you can get with peptides that are very difficult to get with pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. And moving on to brain health, in your clinic, obviously you have the ExoMind, remind me what the technology is. It's called
the PBM as well, the red light.
The other one, the name of the
transcranial electromagnetic stimulation.
Yeah, transcranial electromagnetic stimulation for mood, for migraines, for treatment-resistant depression. But you also have, I saw a hydrogen chamber there. Is that right?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about these technologies for longevity and improving the mind and systemic?
Yeah, they're part of like an armamentarium that all have a place, but require a bit of consistency. And consistency is better than intensity. Hyperbaric's been around for a very long time, and if you type into PubMed many diseases plus hyperbaric, you'll find.
Are you talking
research.
Hyperbaric oxygen?
That's hyperbaric oxygen.
And what about the hydrogen? Is that right?
Hydrogen. Yeah,
hydrogen,
sorry.
and then you've got hydrogen water as well.
Yep. So hydrogen water you'll all have seen, but actually in Korea and Japan they do a lot of inhaled hydrogen. They often have it in their ambulances, actually, for sort of stroke patients, etc. So hydrogen is a tiny, tiny, tiny element, and it crosses the blood-brain barrier very easily, and its ability to potently antioxidize is very well documented, and that's why hydrogen water is effective, plus it's a bit alkali, but also why inhaling hydrogen can be very good for your health as well. So the Japanese actually, many of them sit at their desk in the morning doing their morning emails, inhaling hydrogen and...
Wow, can you imagine that? Hydrogen pumped into offices, but definitely no smoking offices because we'd all go up in flames, wouldn't we?
Hydrogen is highly flammable,
yeah.
So stay away.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. There's so much more we could talk about longevity protocols, but now we're going to move on to the body and Dr. Ben. And of course, none of this is any good unless we can, move and function in a well-functioning body. What does longevity mean to you and your clients? So your clients are high-performing individuals, they're actors, they are CEOs, they are people who have to show up at the top level. How do you support them, and what does longevity mean to them?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that there's so many different ways to frame it, depending on which angle we're coming from. So with the skin, it's the first thing you see, it's the appearance, it's like longevity. If you look young, are you young? Then there's obviously the functional doctors who can tell you, well, chronologically, you're not quite as young as you look. Your liver isn't functioning as your chronological age. All of these things, depending on where you're approaching it, we could talk for days about longevity. For me, with the body, I think the most important thing to consider is sustainability. So we only get one body.
Yeah.
With medication, we can regrow hair. We can.
Can we?
Yeah, but with side effects. So just rather than skip to that point later, let's do it now. I mean, any intervention you have with the body tends to come with a side effect. So with the drugs that we now know help people to regrow hair, there's a bunch of other side effects, which means that you can have personality change. I mean, the amount of men that suffer from, I think, propecia side effects, they have severe depression, suicidal thoughts.
Finasteride.
Is hair worth it, And that's, I guess, my bigger point, and speaking very much to what Mark was saying, which I really enjoyed listening to him, caution, caveat emptor. Be careful what you're buying. Yeah. Make sure that it's from a trusted source. Yeah. Look for signal over noise. You have to make sure that you're not just going with the fads. Yeah. So so much of the fitness industry and wellness industry now is it's an annual fad. So it was NAD last year, it's GLP-1 this year, 2, 3 next. And what will happen is that everyone jumps onto the bandwagon. Before you know it, you've got a stack going from your feet to your head of pills you've got to take every morning. So
if you think about, like you were saying to me, if you think about the low-fat conversation of 10, 15 years ago, we all thought that was the way forward, and now we realise what we miss. There's some key nutrients for the brain, for information for the body we were missing out on.
Yeah, everybody's too young to know this. Everyone's under the age to know that in the 90s, women were told fat was the enemy. 0% fat this. There was everybody was cutting fat. That generation, they're now some of my patients, and they're all on HRT. They have hormonal issues because the body simply can't produce hormones without sterols. Yeah. So that advice that was dished out in the 90s had a huge impact later in life. Yeah. So all I'm saying, it's great. It's amazing when we figure things out, human beings, sometimes it's 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. We make a few mistakes along the way. My favorite, I could give you countless examples of similar to that, really, where the advice at the beginning was well-meaning but was ultimately damaging. And I think that the peptides, the frontier stuff for longevity, just take it all with a pinch of salt, wait for things to become standardized across the board. Pioneers, people that are making the correct call early will make a name for themselves and make loads of money. That's the way in life. But no, what I do is off radar, really. As I mentioned, I came here today as it's a nice continuum with something that I did with Francesca 2 years ago to discuss how the body can be sustained if you move correctly. So there are really, there's a whole smorgasbord now. It's a bit like going to a pick and mix for exercise nowadays. You can go to any commercial gym and you can find a Pilates class, a yoga class, weight training, or you can find an influencer that you want to look like and then just copy what they do. All of that's great, but it's not really the thing.
Yeah, so what works for their body might not work for yours. So what does a kind of a well-functioning, sustainable body look like? What does it need?
Well, I
what
think
we all need.
It's a good question. So if I describe anthropology as being the first principle to start from, look to history. What were our ancestors doing? How do they stay strong? Why do some groups of people not suffer back pain and others do? So when they went to Borneo, they discovered that the tribes that had remained untouched by civilization, they didn't have the same problems that we do in the West because of footwear, because of the way that we sit. So there's something in the way that we move which causes arthritis, which causes degeneration. Now people sniff and laugh and they say, well, look, arthritis, so what? You can take paracetamol, you can use ibuprofen. But ultimately, once you have that inflammatory cascade in play, it's setting off a chain reaction which has multiple other consequences. So cortisol, the spikes, moving is painful, so you gain weight. There's a lot of health issues attributed to having painful joints. So it starts with movement, really. We are movers. We wouldn't get to the top of the food chain without very, very clever movement, dexterity with our hands.
Yeah.
We know, if you look to the blue zones, I think you mentioned Mark mentioned community, which is so important. We are social creatures, and we actually perform tasks within our tribe in the past. So if you were tasked with going to fetch the wood to make the fire that evening, if you didn't take it home, nobody ate. And so you lifted those things, and you kept hold of them, and you got strong by lifting and carrying. Same in postpartum pregnancy. I tried to explain this to Francesca, which was that the reason so many women have to go to Pilates classes, do their Kegel exercises, do all of the stuff which is now prescribed as a system.
Yeah.
Nature provided that for us in the past. We didn't have strollers. We didn't have...
You would have been lifting your baby, which required building up your core strength.
We figured things out. I was watching my 4-year-old at the moment. This is a great example of what I mean by the human heuristics. Yeah. We will figure things out given enough time. Yeah. But if somebody tells us what to do...
What can we do?
If it's not me telling people what to do, then you have to choose your... I don't want to just plug the book that's not yet out there, so I don't leave people with nothing to search for. I have a clinic in Holland Park if anybody would like to come down. But
and I have to say, you're bringing out a platform and a book potentially this year, so we can all discover your movement protocol. But is there something that we can all do tomorrow, today? One change that we can all make to get a better functioning, longer, more sustainable body.
Starts first with your choice of exercise. Make sure that I've designed a training system which tries to make everything that you do in life an exercise. So it means being mindful of how you're walking up and down stairs, how you're lifting, how you're bending. The majority of back pain cases in the summer come from people doing gardening. It's the small things that you're doing badly where you get most of the benefits. We don't have enough time for me to do a demonstration, but I could show people the common mistakes that they make when they're lifting. If you want any resource to go to before mine is out, but you must then get mine when it comes, go to Foundation Training, which is Dr. Eric Goodman, Jesse Salas, who are colleagues of mine. Mm-hmm. It's fundamentally the best way to move if you have back pain. But there's much more to it, so as and when, there'll be an archive for me to show you how you can turn, when you're reaching for something, there are so many different ways you can reach for something. Yeah,
so just more mindful movement, knowing how to reach, bend, all of that properly, so you don't put your, lifting heavy, shopping out the car, twisting, lifting at the same time.
To even touch on it, because to explain it would make me sound like a fool. It takes too long. Some things in life, you just have to do them. It's participatory, like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Once people understand that there are other ways to move, and the exact same movement, I can't. If I describe it, it's not the thing you actually have to do it. So everybody here would have to have something in their hand, which we haven't provided any props. But there are ways to do things which are better and ways to do things which are worse. Some lead to arthritis and others don't.
Yeah. Oh,
so
interesting.
Think of it more that my message is very clear, which is that you have to fight gravity.
Yeah.
Gravity is acting on you at all times.
Handstands, way forward.
Crushing us. Yeah. And so if you don't fight it with your muscles and you don't do an exercise rate, routine, program, follow an influencer who looks like they're fighting gravity, then you're probably going to succumb to it sooner than others.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Now this is why Pilates is so good, because he was on the right track, Joseph.
Spinal extension.
He was thinking, right, how do you elongate the spine, remove compression?
Yeah.
It was good. It was, but it wasn't complete. So that's what's coming.
Well, we can't wait to find out exactly the nitty-gritty of your protocol, because we'll all be I don't know, riding bikes and dancing when we're 100. So, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you to the entire panel for those 3 different takes on longevity, inside and out. Do we have any questions? Yes. I don't know if there's a mic, but I'll repeat the question. I'll be able to hear you. Yeah. Reformer Pilates machines, good for everything.
Yeah. Better than the next thing.
Better
than the next thing that's out there at the moment, but not the thing that you could do.
What is the next thing?
It's in the making. So basically, with Pilates, with the reformers, Joseph Pilates was obsessed with recruiting the core before you move. So anybody here that's ever been to a Pilates class, they'll know that it's about drawing in, lifting the transverse abdomini. Well, there's no other creature on the planet that does that. Think of it, if it was the case that we needed to mindfully contract our TVA, then I'd see my dog do it, I'd see my daughter do it. You'd see everybody would be being very careful to zip up and move. And also, if you're playing a really complex sport, so tennis or football or boxing, anything, you can't be that mindful about zipping up your core whilst you're trying to achieve an external objective.
Yeah.
So it's a nice idea, Pilates. I'm not going to. I've spent enough time bashing it, and it's great for what it is, but it's not. It's actually signals the wrong cascade. So it's the reverse order. The limbs, the arms and legs, should actually activate the core, not the other way around.
Yeah. So there's a lot you can do for anyone who's concerned about their pelvic floor. Yeah. There's a lot you can do just by.
But look, Pilates on a reformer is better than going and lifting weights that you can't lift, or doing yoga that makes you too flexible if you need stability. So it serves its purpose in the landscape at the moment. I just think there's room to improve it.
Yeah. The one thing I liked about putting I do yoga rather than Pilates, but putting your mind in your core is it puts your mind in your body, and then any movement that you're going to do is more mindful because you've kind of made that physical connection. So at least you're being a little bit more mindful in your movements.
Yeah. I don't want to kind of put down. Everybody here probably has their own fitness protocols and ways to do things. I just think that there's an extra level of thought that can go into doing things. And I always use the example of we get stuck in habits of how we make our food, for example, until we get shown a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And imagine there was a time where people thought that there was a limit to what you could do. People bash British food all the time, say, just fish and chips, and it's true. There are better ways to do potatoes and fish. Yeah. But you just keep on doing the same thing until you know something better.
Keep evolving. Yeah, thank you. Yes. On what, sorry? Fascia, the question about fascia release.
Yeah, where it needs to be performed, absolutely. But again, if it's like carpet bombing, if you go and see a rolfer, then they take out the entire chain. Have you been to okay. There's something called rolfing, which is the most painful
It's supposed
thing.
to be really painful, isn't it? Yeah.
What I do is bad, but what they do is even worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need tension. In fact, none of us could sit or stand without tension. If you remove too much tension, then the body collapses.
Become like a boneless chicken.
That's it. So it's time and a place.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we've probably got time for one more. If there's anybody who has a question, maybe about skin, maybe about any of the other longevity protocols that we talked about today, biological age testing, brain. Okay, well, I'm going to conclude the panel. Thank you so much to all our specialists
Thank
for
you.
joining
Thank you
us
very much.
today. And they are around, I think, if you'd like to ask them any questions afterwards. Thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch.